This first discussion is titled Music for Clothes, Runway Music, Cross-Industry Collaborations, and Musicians as Muses. Just as a background, the intimate relationship between music and fashion is not a new phenomenon by any means, and it's not limited to runway scores, fashion parties, or the music subcultures like punk, goth, or techno that luxury often engages with. However, recent trends, like the growing prevalence of emerging internet musicians walking the runway, indicate that this relationship is reaching some kind of niche tipping point. Over the last couple of years, big houses like Miu Miu, for instance, have cast up-and-coming musicians like Ethel Cain, Netspend, and Corteza Starr to walk their shows. Considering this shift and the fact that the boundaries between creative industries are generally getting less and less relevant each year, music's influence on fashion has never been greater or more niche in nature. For this panel, I'm going to be talking with Simone Cotolesa and sound designer and musician Tuomas Soppela. Just for some bios on the two of them, Simone is a Milan-based fashion buyer and digital creator known for his Instagram persona Ecce Homo, which is a hybrid mood board and research platform for fashion, art history, and cultural history. And Tuomas is a Helsinki-based musician, sound designer, and composer. In addition to working as a solo artist under the moniker YSI and being part of the duo Han, Soppela has composed runway music for Givenchy at Paris Fashion Week, digital campaigns for Givenchy, and worked with clients including ALYX and Gucci. Just to begin things, I thought I would ask the both of you, because you both work at the intersection of multiple industries and media, if there's any particular thoughts you have on what makes the relationship between music and fashion in particular interesting in comparison to other cross-industry collaborations.
Well, as a bit of an outsider, I'm not really following fashion as an industry. I follow my interests passionately. Some of them might be designers. But working with fashion compared to like a short film, it can be a lot more subversive. When you're working on a film, the scene, you have to work in those parameters. You know, it has to be sad or it has to feel a certain way. But with clothes, you know, the thing you're seeing can be very delicate, but the sound can be very blunt. So there's a lot more freedom in that expression.
Yeah.
No, I think that the bonding between music and fashion is the most emotionally charged kind of interaction compared, for example, to fashion and art that generally is something related more to prestige or capital investment. Mm-hmm. Music and fashion tends to speak a common language and to create a subculture. So it's something more related to the emotional sphere, mm-hmm. and something that talks a lot about shaping subcultures, like has been for grunge or hip hop, mm-hmm. and so on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, one of the other things that I've noticed, at least with this kind of transition point for the relationship between fashion and music, is that fashion is moving from being a collaborator of music to actually helping produce music. Mm. So Shane Oliver, for instance, has released music under the Anonymous Club label, and then Matthew Williams, who you've worked with, has released compilation albums under ALYX. And so I was curious, Tuomas, if you could talk a little bit about the difference between working with labels that are there at the genesis of a music project versus ones who just outsource or commission things and aren't part of the collaboration process from the beginning.
I think from my experience, the people that I work with, there's a deep affection, appreciation for art in general. It's not, 5 minutes of entertainment while you're waiting around to die. It's not just, there's a deeper meaning. It can alter your consciousness, like a piece of writing or spoken word, or someone using their voice in a certain way that they sing. It can make you cry. It's like, mm-hmm. It's nothing short of magical. And I think the people that I work with, you have this common ground that they might be creative themselves. Mm-hmm. So, it's treated with a lot of respect. And for instance, with Matthew, he was hired as from his previous work. So the company or the brand is not expecting any different. So when I got hired, I wasn't expected to do anything different or sound different. It was extremely easy. And I'm lucky in this way that I have a day job as a sound designer, so my bread is not tied to my art. So if I feel like I'm not the right person for the job, I can just say no. Or if there's like an ethical boundary, it's lucky in that sense. And maybe if there's a maybe more conservative corporation, they might be more concerned with the public perception, and they might be afraid, or the parameters is more narrow. I like to use the term passive progressive. Some companies there, are we diverse or are we not? If you use a rainbow for your logo for once a week within a year, I mean, it's just stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no actual substance to it. Yeah.
It's treated with respect. And with creating the Runway music, it's nice to be treated. It's almost like a vacation. You go there for a week, you're treated all special. While here, most of my friends are my childhood friends. They don't give a shit what I do. They're not impressed.
Yes.
So it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as someone who comes from more of the fashion side of things rather than music, I'm curious if you think there's any risk in putting too much of an emphasis on sound when it comes to like runway shows, or just like in terms of the audience that fashion's trying to appeal to.
Yes. I mean, it depends when the choice to relate to music is only performative, or if there is a deep common sense that relates that brand to that musician. For example, I think that one of the most successful collaboration at the moment is the one among Miu Miu and Troye Sivan, because Troye Sivan perfectly fits with that coquette aesthetic that Miu Miu is now trying to communicate, even if it's just a female brand, but as this kind of genderless kind of language that it's something that fits perfectly with Troye Sivan's soundtrack. And that's why also Troye Sivan is one of the models of fashion shows, but also of campaigns both for Miu Miu and for Prada.
Yeah. And as someone who, I mean, you do a lot of deep dives into the history of fashion, obviously. Yeah. Are there particular like instances where fashion and subculture interact that you think are particularly generative or authentic? Or do you think that it's more of a newer development that companies like Miu Miu are engaging with musicians in a sincere way?
No, it's curious to see how this kind of collaboration will evolve time by time. Because the shift that now the brands are focusing on is to talk to subcultures, to communities that share a common view, instead of promoting some front row stars like in the past was Beyonce or Rihanna, that were sitting at Versace show. Now it's very rare to see that kind of figures attending fashion shows, because the focus is towards that kind of people that speak to a few that share the same view. So it's not a focus on the reach, but on the common ideas and common ideals that subculture could share with the brand.
Do you think, though, that it could possibly, I don't know, erode the integrity of the clothes themselves sometimes if there's too much of a reliance on creating like an audience or like a demographic rather than focusing on the craft itself?
I mean, it depends. There are some successful stories that speak for themselves. For example, Raf Simons' collection from the beginnings were all about youth rebellion. So the references were to Joy Division instead of Kraftwerk, and was very, very strong. Was a strong message, and there were strong collections that still nowadays are some of the most successful ones by Raf. The reliability of those kind of collaborations stands in the authenticity of that message. It's what I said before. If it's something performative or related to trends, it's not something that could last forever.
Yeah. Speaking of things that don't last forever, I'm curious, as a musician and someone who scores runway shows, whether like algorithms or social media have any impact on your process, because a lot of fashion houses now place more of an emphasis on the fashion video or the clips that are made from a show, and I'm wondering if that has impacted the way that you approach scoring.
No, none whatsoever.
Okay,
Don't
that's
care.
great. Yeah.
No. My wife knows how savvy I am with social media, so no. So,
Yeah.
one less thing to worry about, I guess.
Do you feel like most of the designers that you've worked with are also just averse to those things in some way?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm curious, because you run an Instagram page that often has a lot of viral moments, like how, I don't know, how that factors into like your research or curatorial process, like thinking about engagement or things like that.
I've never been too much related to reach. I always preferred a certain kind of recognition that made my page quite iconic, and also supported by some brands that shared my kind of unusual point of view. I always try to give attention to photographers or filmmakers that you couldn't find on your Netflix list, but that's deserves for sure attention also just for their disruptive eye or their disruptive vision. So this approach that we are now viewing on fashion, that is more related to a common share of interest, it's something that I could fit in perfectly.
Yeah. Something that you talked about earlier at the beginning was like the emotional connection between music and fashion as the catalyst for a lot of collaborations. I'm curious for you, what you think is like the number one way that the music benefits fashion, and maybe vice versa, if you find that fashion ever benefits your work more generally.
Well, fashion benefiting my work maybe on a personal level, like imperfections are perfect. Like you might have a sweater that their sleeves are a little bit too short, but somehow it's your favorite sweater. It's words don't do really justice why, but once you have that sweater on, it's your favorite. It's like an armor. It's something external, while the music you're making is internal. So you have that sweater on. If there's nothing else going on in your life, or you play better. It's like a very subversive, or it's like a complete thing. And I mean, with musicians, the imagination is the first thing that I admire, but obviously we have other senses. With your eyes, you see like a rock star, like PJ Harvey looks cool, sounds cool. It's the whole thing. So, like they were saying about rock stars and like these almost like anti-heroes of society. They're cool, and a lot of designers have been into subcultures in their youth, and it's like a very natural thing, kind of go hand in hand. Bit of a rambling answer, but
No, it's
that's what you got.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering, because you obviously have your own multiple music projects or pseudonyms, whether working in the fashion space on commercial projects or scoring, whether that allows you to explore things that you maybe wouldn't explore under your existing projects, or whether it's just an extension of your solo practice.
I think it's an extension. I don't think there's really anything different. The process is the best part, you know. When you work with like Heji Shin, that I was fortunate enough to work with, I admire her work a lot, and you push yourself that extra bit because you know you're working with someone, but the process, you know, that's what you remember. That's like the best part. So I don't think there's any different in the sound. It's you know, I'm just very, very happy to be able to do projects like that. And I mean, I'd be just happy doing music on my own in my basement anyway. So it's like get to buy some nice things for my wife every now and then. It's great.
That's huge. Just to talk about maybe just the practicalities of things a little bit, like with the Heji Shin ad in particular, what was the process like? Were you actively a part of like the video process, or you just scored it after the video was?
While it was filmed. Basically got a call from New York, like, hey, we need music. And then I stayed up and sent stuff. And then it was like probably the easiest thing I've ever done, because it was happened so fast and very organic. Yeah. No, like just the first go and everything was done. It's perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Nothing except like a really good memory. Yeah. Yeah,
of course. I guess one of the other things that I wanted to talk about with you in particular is like taste, and how a lot of, I don't know, musicians are seen as tastemakers now in the fashion space. Like I feel like a lot of like rappers or pop stars are now seen as being like the new fashion icons rather than like Hollywood celebrities. And I'm wondering if there's, just like on a personal level, if there's people who you particularly like.
Yeah. I mean, I think that music has the power to give soul to fashion. And that's why now fashion brands are focusing on this kind of figures, because they are more emotionally charged and able to communicate the message that brands wants to develop and communicate to their audience. I think that musicians, especially the niche ones that have a solid fan base, are the best mediums that fashion could serve now, because they have such a strong fan base, more loyal compared to the ones of iconic pop stars, like in the past, because there is a sharing of interest, of vision, and of how to live basically a life. That's the success that Raf Simons had at the beginning, because as I told before, his collections were all about young rebellion, and they were developed in a particular moment at the beginning of the 90s that were so strong and impactful in fashion. And such nowadays they are so strong. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you see any contemporary brands that, like Raf Simons or like Vivienne Westwood at the inception, are as entrenched in music?
I think the most iconic one at the moment is Rick Owens, because his collections speak themselves to a niche that is very, very loyal and that share with him all kind of interests, music. For example, last fall-winter soundtrack was with David Bowie, Varsava. And David Bowie is one of the most iconic figures that you could find in Rick Owens' collection, because he was probably the most modern visual mood board we have ever had in music. And Rick Owens celebrates him every time. Banally, we can think about the platform boots, but also the costumes that Kansai Yamamoto produced for him are constantly revised by Rick. Rick, I think, is the most credible designer at the moment that is able to communicate this vision that fashion, that the brand, his brand, shares with music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, speaking to this like emotional core that Rick Owens has tapped into, and you were mentioning how like you often work with designers who are very honest or true to themselves, which makes the collaboration more worthwhile or meaningful. I was wondering if you've also had experiences of working with brands where there's a complete disconnect.
Not really. I think been fortunate with. I mean, I haven't worked with that many with the fashion collaborations, so the ones that I've worked with have been easy. And in general, when someone knows who they are, they know what they like, what they don't. It's very easy to be around people like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's been one moment where I was asked if I can make a happy song for a certain thing, and I said no. That was it. Yeah. There was no. it was a
You're incapable.
brief laughter and then kind of move on. So I don't know. I think when people know themselves, they know what they're getting into, and when they get into something, it's like then you let the other people work as they work, and that's how it should go, I think.
Yeah, of course. And then just as a last question before we open things up to audience questions, because you're both obviously immersed in this cross-industry collaboration in different ways and in different degrees, I'm curious if you have any, foresight of what you think is going to come next in terms of trends. Anything that's going to make a comeback? Yeah.
No, honestly, I don't know what will happen next. I think that pivotal role will be played by AI somehow. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see how artificial intelligence could play a kind of role. I don't know which role, honestly, but I think that something will change and will happen in those terms. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's changing everyday life, so I think it will change also this kind of interaction and cultural bonding somehow. Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's already the Balenciaga cute animal videos.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't know when the advertising campaigns are real or are produced by AI. So,
yeah, it's definitely true. Do you have any?
Well, not really. I mean, maybe spaces that are sound immersive, clothing making sound in itself. But one thing, maybe not the future, but what I would like to do in the future would be just have a guitar amp and play guitar while people are walking, and just not practice it too much, but just like, I think that kind of composing would be interesting and something I would love to hear and see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, great. And then I think we'll open up for questions.
I think, yeah, it's on. All right, sick. So, any questions, any comments, anything? Yeah, go ahead. I'll give you the mic. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Laura. What I've been seeing is a lot of like power dynamic where like big fashion houses invite musicians to like score their shows or do music for their ads. But do you see like a dynamic where it's reversed, where an artist can benefit like the fashion industry or like bigger companies?
Me? It's for me? Yeah.
For both of you.
Yes, I think that fashion brands could be great playgrounds for young artists, young musicians that generally speak to very little niche, and so it could amplify their message. It's a kind of inverse relationship, because while fashion could gain more reliability by focusing just on a niche, the musician instead could reach a wider range of public, sharing the same view that fashion brands could promote.
Any other questions? Or are we done? Otherwise, okay. Yeah, go ahead, Elsa.
Hi, I'm Elsa. I'm interested in the context of cross-industry work. How much do you lean into the other format? For an example, when making music for a fashion film, how heavily do you get inspiration from the visual side, or like shapes and colors? Do you look at pictures when you're creating music? Or is it are you fully in the realm of the music? Do you avoid visual intake while creating sound?
Mostly I stare at my shoes or something. I don't know. But it can be very inspiring. I mean, just with certain friends, you have a similar kind of language. You can stare at a color blue and just talk about it for hours. So sometimes, yeah, for sure. And just like, not buzzwords, but if you have like a word you like that it might be important to the project you have. So maybe just that one kind of word is great. There's actually a really good not really problem solving, but Brian Eno made this card pack, I think for David Bowie actually, where you pick a card and it always has like, it says, make it sound like water, for instance. Those are extremely good to work with. I got that card pack as a gift from my friend Pekka, so that's good to lean on to and highly recommend.
How about the other way around? For visual things, can you say something about, do you seek inspiration for visual things from sound?
I define myself content curator instead of content creator. So I try to find inspiration from vintage films or vintage advertising. I'm a kind of nostalgic soul, so yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you had any like moments where music and visual images have like stood out for you, whether it's a scoring for a documentary or movie, runways, music videos? Is there any like standout moment when like the visual and the audio have like left a mark on you? This is for everyone.
Me was my first Balenciaga show was the one that Demna dedicated to war refugees. So it was the catwalk, the round catwalk under the snowstorm, and was wow, simply wow, because the music was like an earthquake. You have to stay like this on the seat because everything was moving and was very intense. It's not a case that the song by Boyfriend, that is the boyfriend of them, was called 360 Degrees. Because it was really an immersive fashion show on 360 degrees, really. And also Rico once shows us that kind of feeling. You experience something that is really, really different from the other fashion shows. Looking in the past, I can also mention the Gucci shows by Alessandro Michele, and those were like living in a fairy tale because it was absolutely stunning. Everything, clothes, music, scenography, everything.
For me, I've only been to one, but I've looked at old Jean-Paul Gaultier videos from the 90s and love how fun they seem to. Like, it looks like the models are having fun and everyone's having fun. There's like certain joy in that, and not really a show, but there's this old, maybe from the mid 90s or late 90s, Yohji Yamamoto, like before the show, kind of a documentary, cities and something. He's playing pool and just speaking poetically and beautifully. That has a really good memory. Also, the VHS quality is like aesthetically very pleasing. Yeah. Oblique Strategies, by the way, the cards, Oblique Strategies. You can find the game also online. I think it's obliquestrategies.com, and then by clicking, you always get a different card. Yeah, it's very inspiring to use as like a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I could tell you, like, recently, like the two designers that stick out to me are, I'm from New York, and so I've really just gone to New York Fashion Week. But Anna Bolena and Women's History Museum, they both have a really, really intimate dialogue with their like composers for their scores, and so they often will commission like friends to do the scores, and it really shows because over the years, like as the musicians have kind of shifted in their music and developed like more into their own sound, like the designs have too, and so those are kind of like my favorite overlaps between music and fashion, or where there's like an established long-term relationship between a score and the designers themselves, and the ones where you feel that kind of symbiosis the most.
Yeah, any other questions? Nope, good, because we're also kind of low on time. And I have one question that I wanted to ask. Yeah, I think you guys already kind of discussed this in depth, but I was kind of zoning out during the talk. So you talked a lot about like how music and fashion, that the kind of symbiosis between the two is kind of like melting more and more together. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you discussed particularly like these projects that, for example, Matthew Williams has done with ALYX, like these curated albums. I don't really know how it works. Is it like maybe for like a collection or something like that? He'll I don't know if he curates it, but he'll like arrange for like different artists to come together on an album. You've been involved in that for ALYX, I think, and maybe for other brands as well. I don't know. Anyway, my point is, I guess, is that's what the future is going to be for fashion brands, that they'll also, like for these design houses, that they'll have kind of artists making music for an entire collection, and they'll release that, and then the clothes are just a way to kind of monetize the entire world they're building with the music. Is like that going to be what we're going to see in the future? Because there's also like it's happening in streetwear, for example. I think everyone who's local to Helsinki will know brands like Vitun Leija, who also are, I think, now a record label. If I'm not wrong, I don't know. Am I wrong? I might be wrong, but I think it's like what I'm observing is that it's like more and more kind of all becoming the same thing. That you just like create a world. There's music involved. There's clothes involved. You sell the clothes and get some money through that. No one makes money with music anymore, so like the way to monetize the music is through selling the clothes. Yeah, I guess I'm just like interested in your thoughts about that. This was for you, the question.
For me, okay. Now, I think that the relationship that a brand could build up with music is more immediate and easy to access instead of art, for example. As I said before, fashion and art generally is more related to capital investment, and not all the brands has that kind of power to invest in art. Not all the brands are Prada, so not all the brands have a fondazione. So music is something more immediate to get in. At the same time, it has to be a strength and a reliability to have success. Because if it's only something to get in the trend, it's something that will not last for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I also have.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I think like you were saying, I think that it's sometimes an easier medium to engage. And there's a lot of smaller brands like Moa Lola did the live show.
Yeah, true.
And
I forgot about that.
Like Dirty Pop, and then there's also like Matthew Williams, which I guess is a larger brand. But I think on an economic structure, there is a lot of signs. There are a lot of signs that are pointing toward this kind of like verticalization of everything. Like I believe it's the Carings, or maybe the Pinot family. They acquired CAA, which is one of the largest talent agencies in the world that represents musicians. And then Saint Laurent now has like Saint Laurent Productions for film.
Yeah, that's
and
what
so
I'm,
a lot
like,
of these
saying.
large fashion houses. There's this dossier that. A friend of mine wrote on this term hyper-optimization, which is about how a lot of industries are essentially becoming like single agencies where they have like a ton of different branches within them. And fashion just so happens to be such a large industry that they're able to absorb other industries better than others. And so you see it with like video games also. Like fashion is, collaborating with Fortnite or things like that because they're the ones who have the funds to divvy out. And so I think that you're right. I think the future is going to be in-house production and things like that.
Yeah, so like the fashion houses are the record labels of the future.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Bad news for all us record label people, I guess.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, maybe good news.
Yeah.
I think yes, that they will produce music in the future, like they are doing with cinema. For example, Saint Laurent now has launched its own line, so it just produced the movie Partenope or the one by Gaspar Noé. So it's a strong relationship now, and I think that music will be the next step.
Very quick follow-up question. Do you guys think it's good or bad? Like overall, this development?
Me, you.
Quickly, the good. I mean, I think at least for communities, like groups of friends doing, I think it's very healthy to do art together. I think it's in our DNA to paint caves and howl at the moon and create stuff together. And there's probably less of a chance of the beautiful piece of music staying in the cupboard, so to say. That when you have a group of friends and then when the ball gets rolling, it's probably easier to let go of stuff. And I mean, it's why not just release it all? But I can't say for the bigger brands if it's good or bad.
I think it's good for fashion.
Yeah.
But
For music
for music, I think it's good in terms of audience and maybe making more ambitious projects happen in terms of finance. But I think it does risk like a commercialization that music still somehow can get away with being separate from. Like there are a lot of like music communities that are still outside of that pocket of commercialization or optimization. But I think if everything is subsumed by fashion, like fashion as an industry is obviously about optimization.
Yeah, and as long as the musicians do the music for themselves, I mean, then it doesn't get watered down. Always create for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be interesting as a new form of mecenatism somehow. But yeah, the main risk is a commercialization.